Why, hello there. A nice tale here. I do hope you're having a fine day. I'm bringing you a review of this Jack Wolf Tango Jack. Well, I think it's just the Tango. This is Jack Wolf's first more standard pocket knife design, not sort of a modern traditional, and it is, I believe, their first collaboration with, well, their first collaboration in general, but and the box is gone. So, of course, the box is gone. When I go to actually start doing the review, the box is not gone. No, it's not. I'm lying. Or I'm blind, whichever comes first. It's a collaboration with Cerberus Knife Works right there. This is of course, the canister it comes in, and Jack Wolf knives. It comes with your POG, your cleaning cloth, some stickers. They did away with the pocket slip that they used to come with, but that's okay, especially on this one where it's not going for a modern traditional design, right? So it's not something like you consider taking the clip off and just putting in a filler tab. So, let's get into specs, and then we can start talking about this knife. I've got quite a bit to say about it, actually. 3 inches of blade. Yeah, I'm going to call that 7 inches overall. And handle length should be, 4 inches. Give or take just like a fraction. That's a dog. He always makes his presence known. He doesn't like when I sit in here and, do anything that doesn't directly involve him. Or involves not giving him all of the attention. He is a needy dog. And while I hate to say it, he's quite an old man now. He's 14. And yet he's getting louder. Alright, there's our comparison knives. Small knife comparison, Civivi Elementum. Full-size knife comparison, Civivi Conspirator. And, yeah, as you can see, this is actually very close to the Elementum, but arguably, actually not arguably, it is a tiny bit shorter than the Elementum, mostly in the handle. I think that the actual blade is slightly longer than the Elementum's, but the handle is slightly smaller. This is not a big knife. This is, in fact, smaller than I would normally go. The Elementum is the smallest knife that I would typically go, other than like a fifth pocket, one of those micro knives that are... Though I have 2 micro knives, and I can still get a full 4-finger grip on them, so I have sort of limitations for what I want. This is pretty much smaller than I normally like. Closed, it's it's the handle that's slightly bigger on the Elementum. Thickness, compared to the Elementum, this is contoured lightly. The Tango, the Elementum, not the Elementum. Looks to me like it might be a tiny bit thicker than the Elementum, but it's probably decently thinner than the Conspirator, though. Moving on, since we're talking about thickness, might as well get the calipers out. Hope they play nice today. Actually, ever since I put a new battery in these things, they've been playing very nice, which is kind of scaring me, but 452 thousandths, so yeah, it's not thick at all. Blade stock, 120-ish, 118, and behind the edge, there's a hollow ground. It's a compound ground, so it's got 2 grinds. This is hollow, this is flat up front. There we go. That's actually too far behind the edge. Yeah, it's obscenely thin behind the edge. Even by Jack Wolf standards, this is real thin. Did I get that right? Am I even on the blade? Yeah, my word, that is thin. It's like 5-6 thousandths behind the edge. If nothing else, even up here on the flat ground area, it comes down to 7 to 8 thousandths. It performs. There is no arguing that this is an absolutely insanely sharp, and it came quite sharp, and thin blade. This thing goes through everything. It's tiny, but it goes through. Ah, yes. Since I always do a comparison to two AA batteries for your actual grip length, as you can see, I mean, in your basic grip, you have like a little over, I don't know, 1 2/3 of a AA battery. If you grip up a little further, you get closer to like 1 3/4. But you do not have two AA batteries of grip length in here. I can still get a full 4-finger grip back here, just barely. And I can choke up just a little bit up into here. I wouldn't use this as a choil, but I can choke up over the top, and get the grip to have a little bit more space. But it is definitely tight. Weight. Weight should be pretty minimal. This is a small knife. It is full titanium liners. Or, well, I guess it's a bolster lock, but full titanium, scales, and whatever, handle. 2.42 ounces, so you're getting more than an ounce an inch. Not surprising, considering how, despite the decently thick titanium, it's, I mean, milled partially out for weight reduction in a sense for the scales, and there's a lot of blade removal for weight reduction as well. Is what I'm trying to say, and failing miserably. Nope. That must be a T10. T10? Yes, sir. Okay. Not a T10? No, it is a T10. Okay, T10. Yeah, T10 pivot. With, let's see, where's the T8? The T8 should be right here. Yes. I have not checked underneath these. So we will do so right now, because why not, right? It'll give you more information, and it'll make things easier. Can I just slide this off? Nope, can't. Okay. Pop right out. There's our T8. And underneath there is, unfortunately, T6. Why? Why do they do this to us? I don't know. Hopefully you won't have to interact with those too much. The clip is not reversible on this one, which is interesting. Is it reversible on other jack wolves? These are not tooled deeply for T8s, I will admit. The depth that the actual head goes in, not that deep. They seem to be strong enough to do it, but I did just slip out of it a little bit there. Hold on one second. Where's my other jack wolf knives? No, I guess most jack wolf knives, I don't know if you could hear me, but most jack wolf knives apparently aren't reversible. For some reason, I thought they were with the clips, but they're not. So I was talking out of my rear end for no reason. Don't worry about that. But those could be tooled definitely deeper. That's one thing I think isn't talked about enough, and that's the tooling, like the depth of the screws. It's great having T8s. Like, they were solid. It doesn't feel like they were starting to strip out, though, really at all. They look okay. Look scuffed, or that might just be the dust from the cure night, but if it's not tooled deep enough, you still slip out, and you start to run the risk of wearing down the screws too quickly. And that was sort of the problem here. This is a T8. This is a VV Elementum. This is my comparison knife. This thing is so shallow tooled wise that getting the T8 in there, it just slips. It free spins. It bumps right out, and it wears it down faster and starts making even a T8 to be the point where you can basically strip out. Or something equivalent. These have good little heads on them, I guess, whatever you want to call it, but it definitely could use to be deeper. And there's a lot of knives that suffer from this issue, and I don't want to belabor it any more than I have to, so I'm going to move on and say that the specs are done here. Alright, so quick look, what are we looking at? We're looking at just sort of a standard drop point blade, with, of course, this dual ground, compound grind, hollow and flat. Nice wedge up here. I really, really like the shape of this blade. I don't know what it is that makes this attractive. Maybe it's because it looks like it's going up a little bit and then it takes a swoop down. It looks aggressive and it looks really good. It's a very attractive blade shape to me. You've got a ton of satins, beautiful, then hand satin, or at least a horizontal satin up here. You got the Jack Wolf knife logo right there, and you have the Cerberus knife logo right there. Both of which and you can see pocket lint and stuff like that. I could never get, if anybody knows how to get that stuff cleaned off really, really well before you start one of these things, I can never get the dang stuff to completely go away. It's a pain in the butt, especially on small knives when you have a tight area like this. It's like, hey, you're still there. Camera's still picking you up. That's not fun. So I kind of just gave up and said, you know what, accept it. This is what a pocket knife looks like when it's actually been in the pocket, so. Where was I? Thumb studs are actually quite good. They're very small, but they're very grippy. And they're small enough that they're not, like, sharp, even though they are kind of sharp. I don't know, something about them is just really well done. They grip really well, they work really well, they're tight, but they're easy to get to. There is also a front flipper on this knife, as is the case with most Jack Wolf knives. And this is where one of the first issues I have with this knife starts creeping in. Oh, the blade is also in S90V, which I love that blade steel, so I'm not complaining there, but start creeping in the issues. For the first time, I think ever, they put the good jimping on a Jack Wolf knife. This is the good jimping. And then they cut this little stupid tab back to take away all your leverage at the top, so you slip off of the damn thing. So you actually have to go down here, and while it works, it's, well, you can see, I'm flubbing around with it. On a bigger knife, it might not be a problem because you'd still have, you know, more mass sticking up. But you do the good jimping, and instead of just taking it all the way up and making it like almost a slightly rounded angle or a hard angle with the jimping going around, you cut off this angle so we lose all of our leverage. So we have to go down further. It still works, but it can feel not exactly intuitive if you just grab it and pull out and, oh, there you go. Yeah. Not my favorite front flipper execution, which is funny because they finally gave us the good jimping and all the hallmarks of a good front flipper and then just decided to, you know, take some off the top for some reason. And there's no reason for it because the stop pin is internal. It is right there. It's not attached to the blade, but it is internal. So they could have put more front flipper up there. Don't know why they didn't. One good thing I will say is that because that stop pin is internal, the plunge grind, which, yeah, comes awfully close to the edge, is not going to be really any sort of factor or element. It's so thin. It's so thin that you can probably put a pretty high angle edge on this thing and still have it cut like a freaking machine. Machine, sure, whatever. I know what I'm saying. And you'll definitely be able to cut in more sharpening torque because there's nothing hitting there. Weirdly enough, I wonder if they reconsidered the placement of the stop pin because you have this little gully behind the flipper tab that looks like it would hit right onto a good stop pin, but if you did that, you'd end up getting a stop pin that started to get closer. So I wonder if that was a redesign midway or something like that, a reconsideration. Just thought, basically. It is on bearings, and that's, again, where the second issue comes in with this one. This, as you can see, pretty good action. Actually, quite good action. The problem is, this is not smooth. This is bumpy. Like, I can feel every, and it's partially, yes, it's partially, this is not an issue. This is more of just me nitpicking. Like, it's not a huge deal, though I would hope for better on a knife at this price point. It's bumpy. It's I can feel every little last bit of the bearings moving here. That's partially because the blade is so light, so small, so thin. But if you're going to have that, there are kinds of bearings and different setups that could mitigate that, that other knives have used to kind of get that, even if it creates like a tighter action. If it's super glassy, perfect, smooth, it still works. This one, yeah, you feel it. You really feel it, despite it having pretty good action. I mean, arguably, even just doing this, unless I completely, if I do this slowly, I can still kind of feel a little bit of that bumpiness. So, good action, yes, in the terms of movement, but smoothness could certainly be better. This would be like one of those ones where I'm more considering a skiff replacement, even though they do tend to be a little bit tighter in there, at least in my experience. They just give usually a much better feel. So, not necessarily an issue, but something that you might notice, and again, something you might want to consider swapping out. This particular one has these blue Kieranite handles on it. There was full titanium and some carbon fiber variants. The full titanium probably maybe has internal milling. If not, it is definitely heavier. The carbon fiber is probably a little bit lighter than this, but not by much. I will say that while it is contoured nicely and ergonomic, if you just look at it, it looks like it curves and flows and is softer than it is. The actual chamfers are very small, so it does sort of abruptly come around. It's not a big deal, just something to take note of. I'm trying to give you information about the entirety of the knife. This is an in-depth dive, right? So we're just talking about everything that I noticed. It looks like it would be more rounded of a handle than it actually is. Decent job doing... I can definitely feel the Kieranite definitely is a bit lower than the bolster, so decent enough job, but could be a little bit better, I suppose. Lock bar axis, like most Jack Wolfs, is completely not cut back. Like, they're not... They go for the aesthetic and flow of the knife over the lock bar axis. That goes for their modern traditional past ones, any of the locking knives, and it goes for this one. This one, however, does, due to the chamfering and the way the lock bar is set up, make it actually quite easy to get in there. It is probably the easiest locking Jack Wolf knife that I have experienced. Not that the others were hard, it's just you have to come more from... not from the side. This one you can come a bit from the side and still get it. So, arguably the best they've done so far, and they've managed to maintain that flow and aesthetic. So, no big deal. Lock bar insert, as usual. The clip is interesting. It's polished along with the backspacer. Very nice looking. It mounts from the back. It is set in a little bit. I do not like the way this clip is set up, though. This front bill on this clip is kind of unnecessary. Just get rid of that and let it go continuous rise. But I don't know. It's a mixture of It's got the bill on the end, and this is a little too steep of an angle to really get it in great. It's got good retention. It's a good titanium pocket clip. It's got the blasted finish, but it just... it's a bit of a pinch point. It's not the easiest thing. It's not quite as nice in and out of pocket as you might think, or compare to a lot of other knives. It's a strange pocket knife setup, or a pocket clip setup. It's a weirdo. What was the other thing I wanted to say? Ah, yes. This is a small knife. This area is tight and small. These angles around the lock are not softened. They are pokey. So when you get in there, while you can definitely find grips that are perfectly comfortable and perfectly reasonable, like this is perfectly fine, I'm very comfortable here, I feel very good here. But as soon as I start adjusting to make maybe a more secure grip, like to grip down on it, or to change my angle, I start hitting these angles. Another thing that a lot of companies don't pay attention to is the actual lock bar relief, not the relief, the cutout for the lock bar needing to be accommodating. This might not be a problem if this was a bigger knife, or it might even be still a problem. Either way, this can be done better. There are some hard angles and sharp, kind of hard corners here that, again, you pick up and you grab and you're loosely holding in your hand, which you're mostly going to use for such a small knife, is fine. It's comfortable. But as soon as you start adjusting, I just moved my finger back and it just grated against that. It's not uncomfortable. It's not a pain. It's not a problem. You can definitely get in there and be reasonably comfortable. I am starting to fall off the edge if I go all the way back here, which I don't love, so I typically go up here. But just something to take into consideration. It is perfectly centered and there's no play. So what am I trying to say? I like this knife. I like the design. I'd like to see a big version of this, like 3.75 inches of blade. Just go all out. Just do a crazy big-ass version of this with an insanely thin grind. Maybe a little bit thicker. You don't have to push it to quite the same extent for on a bigger version. But I'd like to see a bigger version of this knife. I like this knife. But there are some very interesting misses in the design of this knife for me, and I think some of them can be objectively said in general. They're misses. No matter how much you feel it or not, whether your hands are ignore it or not, the fact that these are not softened, the fact that this front flipper is chopped off to reduce leverage, these are genuine issues here that, while it doesn't stop it from being a good knife, or the bearings, I could say, and the clip setup, or structure, they're weird misses for this territory. This is a $350 knife. Every version of this knife is $350. It is not cheap. It is premium. It definitely hits the mark as what a premium knife should be, but it drops the ball on delivering in all of its elements. Now, it is a collab, so that almost always adds money. But if this were just, say, a Wii or Riot made knife, this would be overpriced. Right? It's good, and I'm mostly giving it a pass because I do like it. But I don't know. It just feels like we need to start thinking about the entirety of all the minor details when we get to knives at this territory. Because you have the way I kind of look at it is you have your major design elements, which is the overall sort of everything function, just basically. You have your minor design, not major, your major function elements, minor function elements, major design elements, and minor design elements. And while this thing definitely hits the major functionality elements, it's got a few slip-ups in the minor. And the major design elements are also kind of there, but then some of those real fine minor details are slipped off on. So basically, it's not quite as complete a package as I would hope or expect, honestly. Like the other Jack Wolf knives, sure, the front flipper jimping is not the best, and the lock bar access is, well, I mean, it's about the same here, just maybe a little bit worse based on what you can actually do with it. No, I guess they have some of the same issues, really. I guess this is just kind of consistent with the brand. Just something that we need to consider addressing. I don't know where I'm going with this. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I think that if we're going to pay these kinds of prices, especially if things are going to keep going up, you're really going to have to start hitting everything. So we can't have that clip and things like that. Yeah. Still a good knife. Still a decent knife. If you really like it, if you like something small, I mean, you're gonna like the knife. It's just there are a few things that might strike you when you get it in hand and start playing around with it. Like, not quite what I was hoping for. And this review has taken way too long, but I do think it was important to at least talk about these sorts of things every now and then. And sorry I took this much of your time. If you've continued watching, I greatly appreciate it. Even if you clicked off earlier, I fully understand. But, yeah, the Jack Wolf Tango. It's interesting. There's a lot here that's good. There's a few things that are funky. Consider commenting, liking, subscribing. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching and have a great day.